welcome back to Mums and Melanin. I'm Debbie.
I'm Takoni.
I'm Skumba.
And I'm Ayola.
And before we go any further, guys, you need to subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we've done this song and dance for too long now.
Yeah.
We are now in a committed relationship.
Basically.
If you like, go and pretend that you're single outside.
This is your relationship.
Go and put on the ring and subscribe. Today's topic is, when does it stop being the parent's fault? When do you look at a child and say, you know what, you're accountable for your actions. Mum, you've done your job. It's his or her problem now. When does that even happen? Are we always forever going to be blamed for the things that our children do? Like, what do you guys think?
It's a bit of a tight one because I think about ages. Because naturally, when I would think, where's your mum or where's your dad? You must be young. Do you know what I mean? Or there must be a reason. I must still feel like they're responsible for you to a greater degree than you are for yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah. So basically, I'm talking about like primary school.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but in that breath, I also remember people in that primary school. Like one particular guy he was just so naughty. He was a lot. Like he just was always misbehaving, throwing books at the teachers, harming people, just the works. But his mum was the most lovely person you can ever meet, and she always came to school crying, I don't know what to do. She was asking the head teacher, how can I help him, what can I do, I've tried this, I've tried that. So in that instance, I wouldn't blame her because she seemed, I suppose I'm not in her house, but she seemed like she was doing her best, but the child was...
What does perception have to do with reality? Because someone can look like an amazing person, but in actuality, they're the shite of the guy.
Well, she's going off what she saw,
exactly,
you can only
the
go
reason
off
why we ever say, where's their mum, where's their dad, because of our perception. You're not in their house.
It's the reality of what that person is doing.
The behaviour.
So the behaviour is, this child is saying, F you and the ground that you walk on.
Yeah.
And let's keep it in the context of children, because we'll move on to adults after.
Cool.
But that child is saying, F you, do one, yum, 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 yum,
Yeah.
fine. But this came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that instinctively you're saying, okay, this mum, this dad, you've done something incorrect here.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So someone's assuming that it's the parents. But I know people, I know, I won't say the area, I know some people who have been in gangs and they're thick in it, and at home they're making jollof rice and stew. They've never even said shut up in their house. That's why I said it's on the basis of someone's perception.
Okay.
That's why when they said shut up and whatever else, you were thinking, where's your parents? But the parents have never even seen it of their own child themselves. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So it is a perception
Scary.
thing.
That part is scary.
Yeah.
But it still leaves a question though, what's happening at home, or what is this child exposed
So
to?
why are they so oblivious
What
to
are
who
they
their child
exposed to?
is?
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to.
And
because it could be cousins, it could be friends, it could be playing out, it could be so many different things, because it may not be happening in the actual home.
Yeah.
I've seen this firsthand, and my jaw dropped. The person was a very, very serious gangster, and I had the jollof rice, and he stood in the kitchen and I stood there, I was like, it can't be real. Like, it can't be real. Like, as in, he was greeting his mom, he was kneeling down, I was like, there's no how. Because when you know someone like that, they're so deep in their road culture. I mean, like, try and think of the deepest you can never marry that same person with the person I was seeing face to face. So if someone's living with that boy and he's just an angel at home, he does everything right, looks after his siblings, where does he even have time? Where does he keep it? Do you know what I mean? It's all a bit...
We're jumping forward.
Yeah,
Let's remain in that primary school era for just now.
Yeah.
Because primary school is where they pretty much start to form as individuals. You start to see their personality, you start to see their traits come through, and how they navigate through this thing called life. Right?
Yeah. So going back to my example then of that boy in primary school, I would say that in that scenario, from what I could see of his mum and his dad was never ever around, which could be a possible issue, I think it would now start looking at the cousins and the friends, because later on it came that it was actually his cousins, but people always felt like, what's the mum doing wrong? Or maybe she's not at home enough, or maybe she's working too much. You know what I mean? So you know when we say, when does it stop being the parent's fault? Because people tie, when you're young, like I said, I think a young person, where's your mum, where's your dad? But it's not always your mum or dad, even if you're that age. It's down to what you're exposed to. Because you can do your best.
Again, isn't that the responsibility of your parent to monitor what you're being exposed to?
Yeah.
So again, you're saying it's the cousins, but you should know the behaviour of that particular cousin, or all cousins, to be fair, to know how it's going to impact your child.
I agree.
And also know your child well enough to know how susceptible they are to receive negative.
Exactly. So that one, I'm 100% on you. The other one, it's down to what you see. You only know what you see. We don't see everything, you know. As much as we think we know every cousin, we don't see everything. Even with the cousins, you don't see everything. There's so much that you intentionally had from your parents. We all did it when we were growing up. And some things we were unsuccessful and some things we were very successful. Do you know what I mean? There's stories you'll tell your parents today and they'll be looking at you like, Are you
Did that
sure?
happen?
When? How?
Yeah.
But they were very, very able and current and there. They were there as parents. You know what I mean?
I feel like we keep saying this. I feel like we said it in so many videos that it's so important to speak to your children and to know your child.
Yeah.
Like, funny enough, yesterday, Isaiah said to me, what was yesterday? It was a weekday. Anyway, yesterday, randomly we were talking about being good or doing the right thing. Something, I don't know. And he said, he said, I have lots of friends at school. So, usually I'm zoned out because the guy talks a lot. But when he said this, I was like, okay. So, but are they good friends though? He said, yeah, they're good friends. Then he paused. He said, but some of them say bad words. I was like, do you copy them? But no, then he said, but I don't copy them. I was like, why don't you copy them? She's like, because they're bad words. You don't say bad words, mum. So, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. We don't say bad words. And even if people are saying that, doesn't mean you should say it as well. So then it kind of made me feel like, all right, cool. At least tick. He knows we don't do bad words. Although he said bad words before, he knows that there's consequences.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's something that I know that, okay, in the playground setting, if it's being said, he's the guy that's like, I'm not saying that, you're going to get in trouble, as opposed to, yeah, man, F you. Like, do you know what I mean? But that's where it all begins. Like you said, we're not there in the playground. And I never would have known that his friends are saying bad words in school if he didn't say to me, well, some of them say bad words.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I hear you and I agree with that. But there's also that kid that's going to come in and say, I don't say bad words, but they're actually in the playground, fully saying the bad words. Of course. Let me be honest. There was words I said during my 9 till 3 at the school hours that I would never even utter from 4:30 onwards. I wouldn't even. It wouldn't even come near my tongue.
Yeah.
Because it's like naturally my brain switches that this is not the space for it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I'm not saying that parents don't have a part to play. I agree that they do, but sometimes it's like there's some things you can't control everything.
So are you saying it's not their fault?
I don't think it's always their fault. I think there's actually scenarios where it's not their fault. It's got nothing to do with them. They could not have done anything more. I actually believe that. Even if they're young.
So at the age, if you're young child, there's nothing more they could have done. So your 6-year-old is effing and blinding up and down the place, kicks any given person that feels that they want to kick. And you're saying that this mother, because she's crying, because she's crying. But let me land. Because she's at her wit's end, because she's tried everything, it's not her fault.
It's not her fault.
If she's tried everything, and there's nothing else she can do, why would it be her fault?
Let me tell you why I disagree. Because nothing starts from nowhere.
But she said, that's what she said. The influences were outside.
Wait, but before your child was at a stage that they could be influenced, why were you not the one influencing them first?
You could have
but
you could have been. This could have started at 4. And you were influencing them from 1 to 3 and it started at 6.
And I like it
It does happen.
I like it too, yeah.
We also
Okay, go on.
We also just one point. We also need to remember that these young people have their own characteristics,
their
personality,
and their own curiosities.
We as parents can guide. We can't actually force or input as much as we would love to, because you can bring a child up and say, look, God forbid, this is the Bible, this is and they go off and decide to be something else.
Yeah,
that's just
look at that. It's a Top Boy. I don't know if it's beginning of Top Boy. Might have the wrong program. The kid that basically his mum was a single mum. She was working all the time. She had no money. They were chucked out. He knew there's a right and wrong. He was a good boy. He was a good boy at school. He now got involved with people because he was trying to make money for home.
Right.
And they even trapped him. They trapped him. It was very bad.
So even though it's a bit different, my point is just that external. No. What could she have done?
Because if she didn't work, there'll be no food on the table. It's sad.
And even for us growing up, my mum, my cousins, I grew up with my cousins, our parents went to work. They will leave us in the house. Obviously, we weren't babies. We're like young teens, whatever. Leave and be doing whatever they're doing. They're trying to do their best, isn't it? Yeah. So it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop working so I can come and start staring at these kids, making sure they're doing right or wrong.
And then you end up living on the street, and then that's another problem within itself.
Because they now want something that you can't provide for them. They go to the street anyways because you're at home with them. You're giving them jollof rice, but there's no trainer.
What we need to remember is that parents blame themselves anyway.
No
matter what the age is, to be fair. Even seeing your adult child, you may look at and say, oh, look, when they were young, I should have done this or should have done that differently. Parents blame themselves anyway. But I think we need to remember that externals as well,
not
and
like black and
everything
white,
else. It's
yeah.
not
And
like
I
black
think-
and white. And
What were you
it's
gonna
not
liken
about
it to?
labeling.
No,
so-
yeah, it's a bit far-fetched, right? You know, my mind goes one way. But I just think there's so much that's out of our control. So when you even think of like molestation, like it's, a parent obviously, they'll live with that and it will sit on them. But it can't be your fault. How would you have known? Do you understand? When it's like family members, like for instance now, this boy you're saying, he was being negatively influenced by his family members. The parents may never have seen it. With molestation, sometimes, unless it's like an older person, but when it's like age mates, you may not have seen it. The person just literally just sleeping with their cousin.
Yeah.
It could be
I'll go to
same
cousin's
sex.
house.
They go to cousin's house, they're up in the bedroom playing, not knowing that someone's being touched. You would never, you just never know.
So I'm not
It's
saying
like-
there's no responsibility on the parent,
Yeah,
but
I think it
curiosity is
is.
a big thing amongst children, and you cannot control how far they go with that curiosity. Regardless of what you teach them, you can't
You could
control
just put
that
the
side of
barriers
it.
up on the side.
Yeah, you could try, and by the grace of
Carry
God
that.
and by prayer,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
supplication, they keep into
They
those
make
barriers.
it.
But that you cannot physically do anything. There's a stage that children get, regardless of age. When they're done with you, I've seen children that are like 6, and when they're done,
What does that mean?
who's touching you? Like, no, there's children like that. Like,
What does
they
that
don't
mean?
really
What does
like-
that mean? What do you mean? I don't
I
get
feel like
it.
when they're done, like listening to their parents, you can't. Like, they don't want to hear from you. They're gonna go and do what they want, and they're very, very young. You know that okay, I literally have no control. There's literally nothing. I can't even drag him to counselling. He's not gonna come. Do you know what I mean? There's things that you'll be able to see for yourself. That wow, I actually have no control. So I'm not saying that
But
parents
this is the
shouldn't have.
reason
A,
why some parents relocate, send their children to
Yeah.
Africa.
That's
go
doing
back
all
home.
anything you can to try
everything you can.
and get
Exactly.
something.
Exactly.
But sometimes those things don't work.
I know someone personally who was actually taken to Africa because of this whole bad behavior, and he got worse. He got like it was so bad, and it was just okay. I can't have you here. I can't have you there. What do I do?
And it's like when you think of it, right? There's
But all other children are perfect. So it's
and
not
there's
her.
all different types of people. Let me say one more point. There's all different types of people in this world, right? When you even think of like serial killers, obviously, again, another extreme, right? But you can't blame their parents. Where did this come from? Do you understand? They have their own personalities. They have their own like. Obviously, some of them may be trauma, but things just.
For me, when I say that, I think responsibility is the correct word as opposed to blame.
Okay.
Let's start there. But I also feel like, again, you are, and I say, I'll speak as a mother. We are the first person that our child sees, right? We spend the most time, in most cases, we spend the most time with that child. So we have the most influence over that child. You're right, they grow and they have their personalities and they have their traits. But a lot of it, and if you look at your child, you will see a lot of yourself in that child because they take a lot from us. So in my head, you must be able to see that, you know what? This child, it looks like they're... So, and that's when you step in and you correct it. Then when they're more... when they're easily moldable, for want of a better word, like they're easily, you can get them back onto the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
So I'm talking like at 3, 4, when you can see that, okay, you got a bit of a kickback, you got attitude, okay, don't worry, let's be going this way, let's be going. As opposed to when they're 7 and you're like, oh, they did that when they were 3. Like, they used to tell people to shut up when they were 3 years old, but we used to laugh it off because it wasn't anything. But now they're 7 and they're saying, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
As opposed to that cute little shut up that you were last night.
Yeah.
So
So
with
you know
that example,
that's what I'm saying. That's
with
what
that
I'm
example, I
saying
think
now.
we all agree. However, the child who had a bit of a kickback when they're 3, you managed to curb it when they're 3. Now turned 10 and brought it back because it was inside. They now decided to revisit that side of them.
But do you know
it's
what?
harder to control.
That Damien child, because that's the type of child I feel like that we're explaining here now. Because I don't know children that. What is
It doesn't
that?
need to be.
If-
It doesn't need to be
that
anything
means
mad.
that in within you,
Children coming out.
and your maker is not me and my maker. It's different. It's different because there's no child that I know that is so hell bent on being wayward, just rubbishing the earth like this. But why?
Do you know what it is?
Do you know what? There has to be
think-
something.
I think
There's
the
some
key
sort of
point-
trauma
There is an
or
issue.
something.
There is. There always is. There's always a cause.
And sometimes it's not even so deep as in trauma. It's just children always try to push boundaries. There's the age group where they're going to be trying to push boundaries, and I guess that kind of goes into teenage years and as they get older. But it's when you notice those behaviours initially and you ignore them, or you try to put the barriers up and then you relax and they kind of go back again. You know what I mean? Like, I'll give Azariah, and she's my prime example because she's just Baby girl.
Just my bits like that anyway.
Like, Azariah is her own personality. She's just her own. Right. Sienna will say Azariah is acting sassy. Like, Azariah is just. She goes to school. I pick her up, and her teacher's like, Azariah doesn't want to do any work today. Like, she refused to do any. I'm like, Azariah, why? What happened? She's like, Mom, it's too easy. They're just telling us to write our name. And she's now obviously in the school. In school, this is looking as kind of like bad behavior, this and that. So obviously, I now need to show her that, okay, cool, okay, there's an aim. The aim is to get everything right. Yeah. So let's get it right. Let's get 10 out of 10. That's now our encouragement, isn't it? So you know how to do. Okay, let's do it. All right, spell your name, spell this, spell. And she's really good. And as I can read and numbers, letters, like she'll read words and stuff like that. So she's actually quite intelligent. And you see that in obviously the behaviour in school is she's not listening to teacher, she's misbehaving.
You know that's what happens when you're
advanced. Exactly.
But then also she's kind of pushing boundaries, because if she can get away with it, she's gonna get away with it. And if they allow her, then that's how she's gonna be kind of like intelligent, but then not intelligent. You know, she's not gonna be performing. So it's like, I feel like when they're at that age, 3, 4, 5, like to really, I don't know, kind of mold, direct the behaviour, because when you don't, it ends up turning into something else. So this intelligent, potentially can be an amazing person, ends up being this person that's back at the class causing trouble. And this happens to a lot of our black boys.
Definitely. They were so clever, they had a bright future, but they fell in with the wrong crowd. And back to what you were saying about the Top Boy reference that you made. For me, the problem I find with that scenario is, as parents, it's easy to be caught up in our world of protect, provide, make everything be okay for these children. And it's easy to forget that there's children watching us. So in that situation, it's just the two of them. So I guess there's no distraction. So he can only see that mum is struggling. And I'm sure mum was trying to cover up that they're behind on rent or behind on this or whatever the case may be. But as a parent, as a mother, for me, it's so important to allow a child to be a child, because the moment that child realizes that actually my mom's struggling and now I have to do something, that's my fault. So if my child now, God forbid, goes outside and says, I need to go and run this to this place to go and collect this money, and that's my fault, because I allowed my child to step into my adult world when they had no business being there. I allowed my child to see that we're struggling when all they need to know is that Sonic is on the TV, Princess Diana is that's all they need to know. That's their life. You live your world, let me live my world. And then however it runs is however it runs. Because I probably look at another TV example.
But it's people, children know.
They're not dumb. That's what I was thinking. When the electricity starts to cut off, when the TV's cut off. No, that boy's age.
Let me give my second example.
True.
My second example was A Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah. That small boy slept in the toilets with his dad, right? Didn't have no money. The boy knew that they didn't have money. They were sleeping in shelter to shelter. But the dad made it so that it was a game. Okay, we're going to play this game. We're sleeping here tonight. And blah, blah, blah. He allowed that child to remain a child until he got his shit together and he kept it moving. Okay. And that child cried. That child asked questions. That child, but you know, like, he kept that child a child.
Yeah, in that scenario, like The Pursuit of Happiness, it's him and his dad. The other guy, the mum was working, they were in the hoods. There was room for a lot of other influences to get involved with the guy.
But can I say, I think
with Akin or whatever, was Akin?
To be able for a parent to be able to hide their own struggles, is very difficult.
100%.
So what you're saying is the ideal. To be able to portray that everything is okay.
And I think most parents try to do that.
No.
This is it.
You're misunderstanding. I'm not saying that you need to portray that everything is okay. I'm saying that there needs to be boundaries. So even if you know that, you know what, it's actually no. Sorry, I say that back. Yes, portray that everything. sorry. And I'm thinking about it. Yeah. It's a big. And as hard as it is, you need to do that, because what's the alternative? Your son realizes that
it's not the norm though.
This is really bad, and I need to go out and make money for my mum at the detriment of losing my
I'm not gonna lie. When people are poor, they know they're poor most times. anybody that's like grown up a bit, like you can, you can, but then you can teach that to your child.
Can we say that in this society, guys? Let's be honest. In this society, children compare. Children want things.
Yeah,
they desire things like their friends in order to feel like they belong, in order to feel confident in school. Yes, you go to school to learn, but you want to play in the playground, feel confident that you have the kickers or whatever, the night bag. It's natural. It happens to most children, right? Okay, so let's be real. Most children in this day and society, they're very, very sharp. They pick up on the things that you don't even think. Even these 2-year-olds are picking, 3-year-olds are picking up on things you didn't even think they noticed. They picked it up easily they didn't see your bill. They just heard you say something quickly on the phone. Yeah. And it's like, Yeah. And they do you know what I mean? They gravitate or they hear it. And you don't know when a child's gonna, some children will not actually think, I can do something about this. Some children will just keep going and not buy the shoe. Yeah. But there's other children who, the different character in them will think, what can I do? Particularly that scenario, he's the only other person. It's only him and his mum. That's all he has. And they didn't have like, stay in the country. There's so many problems. So many pressures from left and centre. Do you know what I mean? So it's easy to say, let's pretend everything is good. Sometimes the child can see you pretending, see that you're lying and will still go and try and help you. Or the child will be trying to live the best life, saying, Mum, I need kickers, I need that. And that pressure will make you crack. Because it's a lot. Children are expensive. Like, it is not easy. It's not black and white. I believe every good parent will try and make it seem like everything's fine. Yeah. I believe every good parent will try and keep their child out of their adult worries. I think that's a natural. Any good parent will try and do that. No one wants to be saying, oh, by the way, imagine Thames Water came again. It's 180 again. It's not what they What's this going on?
I'm sure I'm talking another. Hello? That water you're running.
Exactly. Exactly. So still comments like that. Kiana might just go about her life thinking, the hair she goes with the water, let me turn it off. Yeah. But another child might be like, 180. No, I don't have that. Let me go down to that place and they get to school and what's the name? Jack. Who we've been using? Jim or Jack? Jim. It's like, I found out, if you just give me your card details, I can run 280. That's it. It's just card details. They don't have to go anywhere. They come to school, they go home. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just little gaps because children try to solve problems. They're curious as people. So it's like they find out this problem. This is my mum, someone they care about. This is my dad, someone they care about. This is my house. I don't want to live on the streets. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying?
Can I put a pin on this particular road of conversation and ask, as an adult child now, you're not bad, but just absolutely useless.
Like, what does that mean?
As an adult, you don't want to work. You just want to lounge around. You don't. There's no real ambition. You're just not doing anything. You can't really make ends meet. You're fine just doing JJ, just floating through life carelessly. Do you look at yourself and say, this is my fault?
No, because I can never raise you like that.
But
it wasn't the parent.
But it wasn't me. I wasn't there.
Telling you, I'm telling you that it wasn't me.
For me, it's an adult person, yeah? So I think once you're an adult, you have personal responsibility. So it's the adult's fault. But then I would also look and think, okay, is there something going on generationally? Is there some trauma? Did something happen in the childhood? How did it end up like this?
Yeah, but that's not blaming you. That's just you curious about.
Because it's still their fault. Because everybody has to take responsibility for their lives. Yeah. When you're 30,
so how can you say it's their fault, but then you're curious?
No,
this is something that
because
because you still have decision to make.
Everyone's personal responsibility for their own life. So even if something bad happens to you, as an adult now, you could change it. That's your choice.
Yeah.
But the person
seek help to make that happen.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Like,
so it's ultimately that person's fault. It's their life. On Judgment Day, it's them.
They can do something about it. They're old enough to do something about it. That's what I mean.
It's their responsibility. It's their own life. Yeah. Ultimately, on Judgment Day, it's between them and God. What they want to say is their minute. But you always look back and think, okay, did something happen? Is there something? But it's not an excuse not to do anything about it. Yeah. Do you understand? We also take responsibility for our lives.
Exactly. The same traumas, people can be going through the same situation. One will take that as energy to fight back and be like, listen, I'm going to go ham. The other person's going to say, you know what, fuck it all.
Yeah.
So when you say generational traumas or did something happen, who are we looking at? Because you gave birth to this child. So if there's something generational, it's coming from you and before you, no?
Maybe, but also it may be like, it could be friends, it could be somewhere they were raised, it could be so many things. Do you understand?
You're tied in as a parent. This is your child. So no matter you look
but the person's 30 plus now.
It's still coming back to you though.
No, man. You want the parent to carry the weight of the world on their shoulder. They're Jesus.
I'm asking the perspective, the angle that you're coming at it. Because you're saying that you look at what's happening around. But no matter what angle you look, you're gonna be there because it's your child.
Yeah, but it still goes back to the person. Then adult, it's still their fault.
There's two different questions there. Is it my fault as a parent, and what will I do as a parent? Those are two different things. And I kind of feel like we're leaning towards.
For an adult, what can you do though?
No, like you said, no. But even if it's like, do you know what? I know things are difficult. How about we go and see a counselor? How about this? Putting forward suggestions. That's supportive.
That's true.
But that's not necessarily saying it's my fault that you're like this.
No.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
But it's saying, what happened? Do you know when this started happening? Do you recall when life started changing? That's not supporting them.
Yeah,
support. But to blame me that I raised you and I made you a bum.
But in the back of that parent's mind,
what do you think other parents are thinking?
Other
parents.
Let me not lie to you. Other parents are your friend and they don't like you. I can't be here dealing with other parents. My child doesn't matter and it's too big for me to be looking left or right. Sorry, I'm even getting upset. So
I get it, I'm not kind of
it's true, like, because in this life, if you focus too much on what other parents and other people and other parents,
it will never be enough. It will never be enough.
Like, am I gonna kill myself and give you my hand before you say it's okay? Like, please, can we just like let me focus on the big matter at hand here. You parents can focus on your kids. Maybe you have kids, eh? That's what made the parent. Go to the left, go your business. Let me focus on mine. It's true because in this life, sometimes that's what runs you into depression. You know, you're trying to figure out things for yourself, and the fact of what's A, B, and C gonna say, what did Zed say to me yesterday, adds 10 times more. No. The biggest matter at hand here is how am I gonna help my child? Focus on your focus. Deal with your child. Assist them to the best of your ability. But taking it on as some type of weight that I did this is not even a help to your own child. So what's the point sitting there blaming yourself? Be proactive. Like I just don't think anyone should be like, oh my God. I'm not saying naturally it won't pull on your heartstrings. Of course it will, it's your child. But don't get to a point where you're sitting there with blame, because blame that can go down a very bitter road. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So instead, let me try and see how can I help? What can I do?
Because you can't go back. I guess it's done now.
Yesterday, ba?
Okay. So, in final words, parents are not to blame.
Parents are not always to blame.
They're not always to blame.
Past
a certain age, you have personal responsibility. What age is that? 18? 21?
I'm going to put them 25? 21, I would say. Maybe 21, 25.
Maybe 25.
Yeah.
Maybe
I guess it
28.
depends on what it is.
But if you're 20 and you do something, I'm not really looking at your mum though. You're like, if you're 21 and you do something, like, I'm not looking at your mum. Maybe like what home were you raised in? But you're you have a bit of sense. So
but your mum's still
21. You can drive.
She's still trying to talk to you about it.
Yeah, she can talk, but it's still your fault at that point. 21. It's your fault.
But going back to what we were saying in the other video about the age for being able to be arrested and stuff is 10. So really, I get what you mean in terms of 21. That's more like life choices, isn't it? But the mistakes, are we saying, okay, let's say a child commits a crime at 11, 12. Obviously, the law says they're able to get arrested. Yeah. But what do you say as a parent? Would you say, oh, it's the parent's fault? Does that go back to the parent?
Yeah, that's true. Because for instance now, like,
it really depends on the
like when I was younger, I got caught stealing, you know, like supermarket stealing. If someone went to my...
I think.
if someone... Can we get to the point? Of course, because you know the story.
You know what? When I was like 12, I went to Superdrug and I stole it. Me.
But the point, no, you don't have to say me too, it's fine. The point I'm trying to get, if anyone ever looked at my mum, they should be very silly. Do you understand? Because it's not because of that. You're just a kid, you're just doing dumb stuff. I even got money. I was even getting loads of money.
Your mum though.
Huh?
Because they will say that, is this what you're teaching your child to do?
No, but also they should do stats and realize many kids at that age group still like a good 70%. It's what they do.
It's like a trend.
It's like a trend. You just do it and then you go out of it. So it's also sort of looking at the small picture and big picture. Like,
but I think wherever you can, like, expose your children to the consequences of life. Like, just in a day to day. You know, I'm an advocate for this. Like, sitting down and just watching particular programs that just show that some decisions will actually land some people some places. I don't have examples for the programs, but like documentaries, exactly. Documentaries, real life cases.
Something like that. America,
real life cases. I'm not going to damage them emotionally, but it's open their awareness that things actually really do happen. Because sometimes you telling it as an adult just feels like, man, please, no one lives in your old days no more. It just kind of feels like a story. But at least if I'm giving you someone that kind of looks a bit like you and seems like they could have been your friend or someone in your class, it just seems a bit more real. Do you know what I mean? Because the truth of the matter is, I had the fear of going to Nigeria as my reason that kept me. It wasn't because of what mum and dad would say, even though that was a part of it, but it was more so I might not wear these kickers and be in this UK again. That enough rocked me. I said, guys, you go. I'm coming. I'll be there in 10 minutes. And I'll just go home. Do you know what I mean? So it's having something. But in this day and age, going to Africa may not be the thing because a lot of us aren't based in Africa, so it's not the best. We can't use that now. So instead, let me expose you to the realities of what the consequences could be. Should you consider what you shouldn't consider? Do you know what I mean?
Agree.
Well, guys, that has been a heavy topic. Tell us what you think. What are your thoughts? Do you think that parents are to blame? Or do you think that, listen, we've done our job, keep it moving, how you live your life is down to you? Leave a comment, yeah? I've told you we're in a relationship now. Talk to me. Communication is key. I trust you. You trust me. We're Mums and Melanin, guys. Bye.
Bye.